I had ventured into the serene woods of Blackwood National Park for a much-needed backpacking trip, yearning for a few days of solitude and escape from the chaos of the city. At dusk, I set up camp by a picturesque stream, with tall pine trees providing shelter, their needles swaying gently in the breeze. My campfire crackled, and the sweet scent of pine filled the air, creating the perfect setting for my getaway. My decision to embark on this camping trip was driven by a desire to avoid the looming threat of the latest virus, nicknamed violent meningitis, that had spread through the city. The news had been replete with stories of infected individuals displaying more and more aggressive and unpredictable behaviors. I knew that the city was becoming increasingly perilous, so I sought refuge in the peaceful heart of the forest, if only for the weekend. As darkness descended, I put out my fire and crawled into my sleeping bag, listening to the night sounds of the woods. The rhythmic chirping of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl provided a soothing lullaby. I was happy that here, amidst the solitude of the forest, I could find myself far removed from the dangers of the virus and worse, its crazed victims. However, in the dead of night, I was abruptly awakened by something sinister, a cacophony of angry shouts and scuffling footsteps. I cautiously unzipped my tent just enough to peer outside and, to my horror, saw several figures moving in the darkness. Someone, perhaps another camper, had already been seized by the group. The poor person screamed in terror, and then the sound of their demise was unmistakable. My tranquil camping trip had transformed into a nightmare. I was outnumbered, and they were unmistakably infected with the mysterious virus. My heart raced as I realized that my only chance of survival lay in getting back to my truck and escaping the impending chaos caused by this violent group. I silently packed my essentials, donned my boots, and reached for my trusty hatchet, which I had brought along for chopping my firewood. As I peered outside the tent, I noticed that the number of infected individuals had increased. They roamed the woods, their eyes filled with hungry rage, as if searching for more victims. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I decided to make a break for it, relying on the survival skills I had honed through years of hunting. I moved stealthily through the trees, being careful not to make a sound. The moonlight provided just enough illumination for me to navigate my way back to the trail that would lead to my truck. The forest was eerily silent, and the usual nocturnal creatures had fallen silent due to the presence of the infected. It felt like I was in a horror movie, my senses on high alert. Branches snapped underfoot and I froze, listening for any signs that the infected had noticed me. Fortunately, they seemed more engrossed in their violent outbursts with each other than in me. I pressed on, cautiously making my way through the woods. My luck took a turn for the worse when I stumbled over a fallen log, crashing to the ground with a muffled curse. The noise was enough to attract the attention of a nearby individual. He charged after me and yelled to the others to join his hunt. In a panic, I swung my hatchet, the blade connecting with his arm, making a sickening thud. He let out a guttural scream, and I knew I had to move quickly. More of the infected were drawn by the commotion. With newfound determination, I sprinted toward the trail, putting as much distance as possible between myself and the growing horde. The trail seemed endless, winding through the dark forest. My breath came in ragged gasps as I fought exhaustion and fear. Finally, I spotted the faint glow of the trailhead and spotted my truck through the trees. Relief washed over me. As I approached, I fumbled for my keys and flung open the door, diving inside. I started the engine, praying that it would roar to life, and it did. With a screech of tires, I peeled away from the park, leaving the terrifying forest and the infected mob behind. I knew that this so-called violent meningitis would continue to spread, but for now, I had escaped the clutches of violence and chaos. As I drove through the night, I realized that my peaceful camping trip had become a nightmarish fight for survival. No one yet knew what had caused the outbreak, but I was determined to stay alive and, if possible, help put an end to the nightmare that had descended upon us. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with danger, but I was ready to face whatever challenges awaited me. I knew that my survival skills, along with my determination and resourcefulness, would be my greatest assets in the struggle to survive in a world overrun by violence and the unknown.